Good evening, DFS Jaggers. Welcome to a very special NFL fantasy football. Not really fantasy football. We're not really talking fantasy today, but NFL AFC win total show. We are going three wide today. First time in our Nickel City Mafia history that we're going to be doing that. So if you like our content, please like and subscribe. We are doing a special giveaway in a couple weeks, sometime soon. So if you subscribe, you will be entered in a draw to win our giveaway. We will reveal the prize in one of our future shows. So please subscribe, hit the subscribe button, and you will be entered in a draw to win our special giveaway that we will reveal one of our near future shows. Today, we're going, like I said, we're going three wide for our show today. We got my usual co-host for the Fantasy Football Show, Chris Caldwell. How you doing, Chris?
Doing awesome, Rick. Thanks for having me tonight.
Yeah, of course. And then also a special guest tonight is making his first fantasy football appearance is going to be Tony Altieri, who is my usual golf co-host.
Oh, dude, I'm so pumped not to have hosting duties tonight. It's so much easier being a guest than it is the host.
Yeah, it's definitely difficult being the host. But yeah, so we're going to be discussing basically we're going to be discussing AFC win totals today. So we have the Vegas win total that's projected for every single team in the AFC. We're each going to give what we think is an over or under for the win total. We're going to give some division winner predictions, and we're gonna basically give our spiel on every team in the AFC. Obviously, we have a little bit of bias in this podcast with me and Chris being diehard Ravens fans.
No
Tony,
bias.
yeah, well, that's true. No bias. Yeah, you'll see with our picks that I'm actually not that biased. But Tony doesn't have a NFL football team that he really cheers for. He used to play football for Boise State back in the day when he was 200 pounds heavier. Is that what you said? 200.
Yeah, 296, man. That's what I played at.
So Tony was a big dude back in the day, and he played Division I football. So he's a big Boise State fan when it comes to college football. But do you have an NFL team that you cheer for, Tony?
No, when you grow up in San Diego, you kind of become agnostic to pro football. And, with the Chargers finally realizing that nobody really gives a crap about NFL in San Diego, they made the smart transition to leave LA. So that's a really long-winded way of saying I don't really care about the NFL. I do follow it because I love to bet on it and I love fantasy football. But in terms of allegiances to teams, whoever wins the Super Bowl, I'll go buy a hat and wear it for a year.
Yeah, that whole transition from San Diego to LA was I think it was a big mess, but it is what it is. They're in LA now, and they have a beautiful brand new stadium that they're going to start playing in. Well, they already started playing in it, but with fans this year, so it should be exciting to watch the Chargers this year. But we'll get into the Chargers in a minute. So today we're going to start by talking about the AFC North. That's going to be the first division that we're going to talk about, and we're going to actually kick it off with the Baltimore Ravens, who have the highest projected win total with 11 wins. So we each have an opinion. We're going to give our little spiel on each team. So Chris, I'm going to throw it to you first. What do you think about our Ravens this year?
Yeah, man, I got the Ravens shirt on, so I guess you gotta go to me first. This one was tough, man, because 11 win total. They had 11 wins last year. Of course, this year we're getting an extra game. So I, tend to want to pick over, and I'm going to pick over. If there's a bet out there to push, I like the push bet a lot. I think, 11-6 is right for this Ravens team. I would have them finishing better than that, but they do have the second hardest strength of schedule this year. So gives me a little bit of pause. I think I would have went hard on the over, but with J.K. Dobbins out for the year, Rashad Bateman starting the year on PUP, it's just got me a little bit uneasy. But if I have to pick over or under, going up top for the boys in purple.
All right, yeah, the very. I think it's a safe pick to take the over there, but I'm personally. Being a diehard Ravens fan, it's hard for me to say this, but I am going to go take the under on them this year for a couple of reasons. Like you said, I am very concerned about the injury situation. I'm not too concerned about the J.K. Dobbins injury situation just because I think Gus Edwards is a good fill-in, and I think he can carry the load. I think that he was going to, basically be splitting time with J.K. Dobbins anyway, and just how good they are rushing the ball, I think he can pretty much plug in anyone with some decent talent in that backfield, and that'd be good. I'm more concerned about our wide receiver core, and it's a concern that I've had for 25 years now being a Ravens fan is how poor we are at developing wide receivers, how poor our passing game is. And I just think Greg Roman, who is our offensive coordinator, former Bills coach, by the way, is very good at developing a run game, but he's very, very passive and poor at developing a pass game. And it's one fear that I have on not being able to keep up with the likes of like Kansas City or high powered offenses, like even like the Browns in our division, where I don't think we can pass the ball great. And then the other thing with me personally is I'm not a John Harbaugh fan. I haven't been a John Harbaugh fan for a long time now. I think he's an okay head coach. If he got fired by the Ravens, would he have a job the next day? Yes, I think he would have a job the next day. He's a Super Bowl winning head coach. But I think ever since Ray Lewis has left the locker room and John Harbaugh has become the voice of that locker room, I think we've lost a little bit of an edge on the team. And I just don't feel like we played with the same toughness that we did back in the day when Ray Lewis was leading that locker room. And so this year, I think we're gonna. I'm gonna bet. I'm gonna take the under here. If I was going to say anything, I'd lean towards a push, like Chris said, like 11 wins. It seems like it's a good number, but I'm thinking 10 and 7 is what I'm leaning towards this year. So I'm taking the under. Chris is taking the over. What you got, Tony?
I'm going to have to side with you on this, Rick. I'm also taking the under. Much like Chris talked about, if I could have bet this at 11, I would take it. The issue for me is the strength of schedule, right? They have the second toughest schedule in the NFL. And then also divisionally, they are top to bottom, the most difficult division, with no team ranking outside of the top half of the rated teams in the NFL. So the fact that they play the second toughest schedule in the toughest division in football, and you're expecting them to win 11 games. You mentioned it. The vertical passing game is a huge issue for them and has been for years. And I think anytime you're relying on your quarterback to use his feet to evade and extend plays over and over again, the loss of their running back, I just think you're hanging a lot on Lamar Jackson to carry this team. I recognize that they have the best defense in football, arguably. But those factors are why I am siding with the under. Like I said, if I could have bet them as a push or a no bet, I would have done so. But I'm going to take the under at less than 11 wins.
Yeah, I'm feeling you on that one, Tony. The one thing I will say about the Ravens is that they do have, for whatever reason, they have one of the best home field advantages in the NFL. They play absolutely wonderful at home, and they do get an extra home game this year. That's right, Chris? Right? They get 9 home games this year. Yeah, so they do have 9 home games this year. So that does make me lean towards more like an 11-win season. But I think we're kind of all in agreement that it's going to be right around that 10, 11, possibly, hopefully. As a Ravens fan, hopefully a 12-win season. Maybe drop down to the Browns now. They have an over/under win total of 10.5 this year. The Fighting Baker Mayfields. So we're gonna throw it to Tony first. What's your take on the Browns this year, Tony?
Yeah, the Browns are coming in with a lot of hype. Again, much like the Ravens, they've got a very improved defense. They've got 2 of the best running backs in that division, in my opinion. It's a 1-2 punch that is unique. If they lose one of them, they've got arguably the best backup in the NFL and Kareem Hunt. But I think the big thing for me is the progression of Baker Mayfield, their ability to move the ball down the field vertically, to score in bunches. And I think there's a lot of expectations with that staff and with that team. This is a huge year for Baker Mayfield, a lot of pressure. And so for me, when I look at it top to bottom, I am going to take the over. It's probably not a popular pick because, they won, I think, 11 games last year, and there's some film out there on them as a team. But I think there's a lot in store for the Cleveland Browns this year. I think the meter is tilting up, so I am going to take the over.
All right. Chris, what is your take on the Browns this year?
Yeah, so I'll play off Tony's, when he said high expectations, that tells you all you need to know of why I'm taking the under on the Browns. It's still the Cleveland Browns, guys. This team has just disappointed their fans for who knows how many years now. And they're just a choke job of a team. I'm not a Baker Mayfield fan, as you know very well, Rick. And yeah, they got 11 wins last year. Their total's coming in at 10.5. I know they have the extra game, but their strength of schedule is right up there with the Ravens and Steelers this year. They have the 9th hardest strength of schedule, and their defense was downright atrocious last year. They had the number 22 ranked defense in the league. I know they've added some pieces to that defense through the draft, and they also added Jadeveon Clowney. I think that signing might be a little bit overhyped, just like the rest of the team. You think the Ravens have bad receivers, man? I mean, you have Odell Beckham, who hasn't produced in a while. Jarvis Landry's getting up there, pushing 30 years old. Mayfield's a system quarterback. I just don't think he can carry the load. The Browns are the most overhyped team in the NFL. Mark it down under.
All right. Yeah, I will agree with the fact that they are one of the most overhyped teams in the NFL. However, I am going to take the over here. I think they're going to win the division this year. I think that Baker Mayfield's going to take that next step. I am a big believer in Kevin Stefanski as a head coach. I think he's a very, very bright head coach. I think he's going to develop a game system for the Browns this year that Baker Mayfield can basically adapt to pretty well. We saw it last year, how they just completely blew the doors off of the Steelers in the playoffs. And that's a pretty good Steelers team who started off the season last year 12-0. So seeing them blow away the doors on the Steelers and then not really stay with the Chiefs in the playoff game, but they made it competitive. It makes me think that they're going to take a next step. And like Chris said, they did add some pieces on defense, which was the worrisome piece, a worrisome unit last year was the defense. And I just think back to the Ravens Browns Monday night game, which was probably the best game of the year, where it was just a shootout back and forth, and they both scored like in the 30s or 40s that game. So adding Jadeveon Clowney, yeah, it's kind of a hype signing, but I think he's gonna be a good piece to that defense just because he can open the door for Myles Garrett on the other side of the pass rush. So I think they're going to take a step up in defense. I am taking the over. They are my pick to win the division this year. It is going to be a good battle between them and Baltimore, I believe, for the division title. So I think it's going to come down to one of those two teams to win the division this year, but my pick is the Browns to win the division this year. So yeah, that's my take on the Browns. So we got two overs and one under on the Browns, and we're going to drop down to the Steelers now. Their over-under total is 8.5. I'll lead this conversation off by saying that I think this is the best bet on the board for the AFC. It's my favorite pick of the whole AFC in taking the Steelers over. I think 8.5 is just way too low of a number for a caliber team like the Steelers. I think they have arguably, like Tony said, the Ravens have a really good defense, but I think arguably the Steelers have the best defense in the AFC, and I think that can ride them to easily 9 wins. And Mike Tomlin is a very good head coach. They're going to run the ball a lot this year with Najee Harris. Ben Roethlisberger obviously taking another year, older another year, but he has a good wide receiver core where I think they can definitely stay in games. Don't forget they started the season off last year 12-0, so to get to 9 wins in a 17-game season, I think it's pretty safe to say that they're going to hit that mark, just because 8.5 just seems too low for a Steelers team. I can't even remember the last time the Steelers won less than 8.5 games. It just doesn't recollect in my memory. So I think nine wins or better this year for the Steelers for sure. I don't think they're going to win the division. I think they're going to be a solid battle for the wild card. So that's my take on the Steelers. Chris, what do you like about the Steelers?
I'm with you, man. This is in my top 3 bets for the AFC. I just don't know how you don't smash the over on this. They won 12 games last year, like you said. Their numbers at 8.5, and they're getting an extra game. And they shored up their biggest hole, which was running back. They had no resemblance of a running game last year, and Big Ben his arm was so shot, and I honestly think that he was playing through an injury. All reports from camp is that he looks like he lost weight. He's looking spry. He's looking healthy, and it's still Big Ben. He's first ballot Hall of Famer, and I'm gonna ride him, man. I mean, all you have to do is get to 9 wins. It's an easy pick for me. They had a number 5 ranked defense in the NFL last year. That's the backbone of their team. And they were actually pretty banged up on defense last year and still finished number 5 in points per game. So those 3 receivers that you already talked about, none of them are over 25 years old. They're only going to get better. It's freaking wheels up. I have them coming in second in this division in front of the Browns.
All right. So me and Chris both high on the Steelers. Tony, you're riding with us over on the Steelers, or are you taking the under?
No, I'm in full agreement. I am also betting the over. I thought it was the most mispriced in terms of the number of games that they should win during the season. You guys had all the salient points. The only thing I would add to that is consistency. Same quarterback, same system, same personnel, and areas where they needed to get better, they got better in the offseason. The Steelers are actually my pick to win the division this year. And so when I saw the 8.5, I was in for the over all the way.
Okay, all right. So we're all in agreement on the Steelers over. So I think we all sound like we like it. So if you have a book out there that takes over/under bets on division total wins for the year, pound the over this year. All right, last team in the AFC North. The lowest projected win total in the AFC North is the Cincinnati Bengals. We all know how the Bengals are as a franchise for decades now. I don't think they've won a playoff game ever. I don't even know the last time they won a playoff game. So we know who the Bengals are. They do obviously have a lot of very exciting pieces this year. Chris, what do you like about the Bengals this year?
Not a whole lot, man. Besides fantasy football, they have a couple nice receivers and Mixon's back healthy, but Joe Burrow is on 1.5 legs right now. And, they won 4 games last year. For 6.5 to be the number, they're projecting way too much improvement just for a splash, pick with Jamar Chase. I'm just not seeing it. The defense was ranked in the 20s last year. The offense was ranked in the 20s, and people aren't talking enough about Burrow's injury. I mean, he just completely blew out his knee, and I think I know he's not at 100%. The reports from camp is that he looks very hesitant. I think he's going to have an extremely slow start to the year, and I just don't. 6.5 just seems like way too much of a number with a team with that poor history and injury concerns, and they didn't really do a whole lot to fix that O-line problem. They could have drafted Penei Sewell, but they went for Showtime and tried to get Jamar Chase to pair up with his college teammate. But I would have went with the big left tackle there, but under all the way on the Bengals.
All right, yeah. So we got an undervote for the Bengals. Tony, Bengals.
Yeah, I'm taking the under as well. Chris brought up a lot of good points. To me, there's a lot of flash, not a lot of substance. People love, when a quarterback goes number one. Burrows, everybody loves him, but he is hobbled. They're a team that has, a strength of schedule inside the top 10, and they are not one of the better teams in the NFL. So I just can't see, with the division being as difficult it is, and there's not a lot of stability up front, both on the offensive and defensive lines for them. I just can't see them winning 7-8 games this year. They're going to struggle. I think they'll show in certain scenarios where the matchup is favorable for them. They'll put up points. They'll look good. But overall, I think it's going to be much like the Chargers were in previous years, where they're in games, but they just can't cross the threshold. There's not enough continuity there in the program with the coaching staff and with a quarterback that is still basically a rookie. So I am taking the under as well.
All right, I'm gonna make it a unanimous thing and take the under for the Bengals. I do really like their pieces that they have in fantasy for fantasy purposes this year. I'm a big Joe Burrow fan. I'm a big Jamar Chase fan, but I don't think that's enough to overcome how bad their defense is. I just think they're absolutely atrocious on defense. They can't stop anybody. They're going to be in a lot of shootouts this year. They're going to be coming from behind in a lot of games. I think they're going to go 0-6 in the division. So asking them to win 7-8 games out of division is out of the rest of the 11 games. I don't think that's possible for them. I think they're just going to get swept by the Ravens, Steelers, and the Browns this year. I'm not a huge believer in Zach Taylor. I know he's a Sean McVay disciple. I'm not really sure if Sean McVay disciples are any good in the NFL. We haven't seen anyone have any success yet as a head coach that's come from the Sean McVay system. So, I'm taking the under also. I do like Burrow. I do like Chase. I'm okay with mixing his fantasy options, but Yeah, I just can't see them winning 7 games this year. I just don't think that's a possibility for them. Maybe in the future, maybe they can add some pieces on defense and get better on that side of the ball. But until that happens, I can't take the bait with them. And I do agree with Chris. I think they made a mistake not drafting Penei Sewell to shore up that left side of the offensive line instead of taking Jamar Chase. They already have 2 good receivers in Tyler Boyd and T Higgins. Why did they need another one? Who knows? But anyways, but yeah, that's our take on the AFC. I'm taking the Browns to win the division. Chris, I'm assuming you're taking the Ravens to win the division.
Yeah, I'm taking the Ravens. And one point I wanted to make while we're on the Nickel City Mafia channel, I think it's a little bit understated that we brought in Sammy Watkins to reunite with Greg Roman. There's Buffalo Bills connection there. I know the rest of the receivers are a little bit banged up, but hey, we might see some sparkle that we saw back in the Buffalo days out of Sammy Watkins. I'm praying for it. Ravens win the division this year.
Yeah, I sure hope you're right, but I don't know. We'll see. And Tony, you taking the Steelers to win the division?
I am. I'm going with pedigree. I'm going with continuity. I think Ben stays healthy. They've shored up the running back game. The defense is what it is. I think it's going to be between them and the Browns for the division, but I think they end up edging the Browns out and win that division.
Yeah, I think this is. I'm a little biased, obviously. I think this is the best division in football. Just how good those 3 teams are is it's always been like that. It's a smash mouth division. It used to be always Ravens and Steelers, but now it's the Browns have injected into themselves into the division title mix. So it's going to be a good battle all year. We'll see how it plays out. I hope me and Tony are wrong, and I hope Chris is right. So we'll see. All right, we're going to jump to the AFC South now, which is what I think is possibly the worst division in football. So we're going to start off at the top here. The Tennessee Titans coming in as a projected total of over under 9 wins. Tony, what do you got on the Titans this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Titans showed who they were late in the season and in their playoff run. They're a team that's built for the playoffs, right? Run the football, play good defense. That's the way that you win in the NFL. Obviously, we've got this new migration with the quarterbacks and all the scoring that we've seen as of late, but they're a traditional team. You mentioned that they play in a terrible division, much like the Bills do. Their strength of schedule is not very good, and I think there's a lot of dynamics around them that are similar to the division that we just talked about, which is the AFC North. You could take them and switch them out for any one of those 3 or 4 teams that we discussed in the previous division. So I like the Titans a lot. I think they'll ride Henry like they have the last couple of years. And I think they will be a team that will overachieve, especially with the extra game this year. So I like the Titans over. They're projected at 9. I think they could win 11, 12 games this year.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. I'm taking the over also. I think the loss of Arthur Smith at offensive coordinator is a big loss for them. I think he's very, very good at being an offensive coordinator. But I think whoever I'm not even sure who they hired at offensive coordinator, but whoever it is, they know what the philosophy in Tennessee is, and that's hand the ball off to Derrick Henry, and then let Tannehill unleash and throw the ball to AJ Brown and Julio Jones. And I think that they're going to beat up on the division this year. I think they're the best team in the division. So to get to that over of 9 wins this year, I think it's going to be pretty easy for them. I don't think it's going to be too difficult to get to 10 wins. They are my pick to win the division this year, and I really think that they're poised for a good season. I don't know how far they can go in the playoffs with Tannehill at quarterback, but we'll see how they do. They're a pretty boring team when it comes to things, but I think overall they're a really good team and can get to the 10-win total. Chris, what do you think of Tennessee?
Yeah, man, I'm taking the over pretty easily on this one. They had 11 wins last year. The over-under this year is only 9. I think the reason it's lower, even with the extra game this year, is 2 things. Their defense was ranked, 26th in the league last year? 24th in the league last year, and did it get worse. They did nothing to improve that defense. That's thing number 1, is how much worse is their defense? And thing number 2 is, what is the impact of Arthur Smith leaving? So he was the creator of that offense. As simple as that may be, he ran Henry down your throat until, Tannehill was one of the most efficient passers in the NFL because he had a ton of one-on-ones with talented receivers. So if a new OC can duplicate what Arthur Smith set up, I think their offense is going to be good enough. It was number 4 in the NFL last year. I think it'll be good enough to hang in there and get them 10, 11 wins this year, but we had to see how bad that defense is. I'm liking Tennessee's fantasy pieces because they are going to give up a ton of points.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we got all three of us on the over. So I think we're all going to probably end up picking them to win the division, possibly, but we'll get into that in a second. But I can see why we're all in agreement here. We saw them get to 11 wins last year, so I definitely can see them hitting their over there. So next team projected in this division with the same win total as the Tennessee Titans is the Indianapolis Colts. They're also coming in at 9 wins projected. So according to Vegas, it sounds like it's going to be a 2-team race to win that division this year. I am personally going to be taking the under on the Colts this year, and that is purely based on the fact that I think Carson Wentz is trash. I think he is an absolutely garbage quarterback and has been since he got that knee injury in Philadelphia. So I think that a lot of people are making a hype of him going back to Frank Reich, who was his quarterback, who was his offensive coordinator in Philadelphia, and having that MVP-like season that he was having before that injury. But one thing that I've seen over the last 2 years with Carson Wentz is that he is so injury prone. We've already seen it already with Indianapolis, and I just don't think he's that good. And I don't think they can run. I don't think they can they can win games based on the coattails of a good defense, a good offensive line, and a good running back. The rest of their team is really solid. I think they have good pieces at wide receiver. They have good pieces in the backfield and on defense and on offensive line. I just think Carson Wentz is just so bad that I don't think they can get to that 9-win total this year. Tony, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a Carson Wentz guy either. I never have been. Even when the Eagles drafted him, I felt like the level of competition that he played at in college and what he was going to see in the NFL was drastically different. Obviously, it was more about durability and staying healthy for him in Philadelphia than it was anything else. And the fact that he's injured now to start the season, who knows what happens there. There's not a lot for me to get excited about with the Colts. They rode Phillip Rivers in his last season to be able to win the games that they did. It was nice to see P. Ribs go out, with a team that was actually able to get something done, but you subtract him from that equation. In my opinion, they haven't added enough to get back to that level. And I think it's a hefty ask for them to win 9 games this year. So I'm also going with the under.
Yeah. Surprising to say for me, I think going from a quarterback of Phillip Rivers' capability last year, who throws like 5 interceptions a game, to Carson Wentz is actually a downgrade. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's how much I think about Carson Wentz. But I think Chris is thinking a little bit differently than us. Chris, what do you like?
Man, so I couldn't decide what's my favorite bet of the AFC, the Steelers or the Colts. I mean, this is a freaking layup, guys. They won 11 games last year, and their over-under is 9 this year with the extra game on the schedule. You guys are giving Rivers too much cred, man, for his last year of his career. I know Carson Wentz is not a world beater. If just give me a healthy quarterback that can just hand the ball to Jonathan Taylor behind the best offensive line in the NFL, and you are going to win 9 games. Are you kidding me? They have one of the top 10 easiest schedules in the NFL. They had the number 8 ranked offense last year with Noodle Arm Rivers, number 11 ranked defense last year. And they have a solid coaching staff, solid GM. They remind me so much of the Ravens. They're just a solid franchise. I know neither of you like Wentz, neither do I. All he has to do is literally not blow it. I mean, Phillip Rivers was pretty damn bad last year, and this team won 11 games. So you're going to give me 17 games now and they can't win 9? Nope. Number 1 bet on the slate. Over.
The only thing that I would say to that is your initial ask, the caveat to your total, is the one thing that they can't do. Carson Wentz cannot stay healthy and he cannot be a productive quarterback. So you subtract him out. We saw what happened with that franchise when, Jacoby Brissett was the quarterback. And that's the level of play that you're going to get when Wentz can't make it onto the field on Sunday. So I hear what you're saying. They're all salient points. The big question mark, which was your caveat, I just don't see them being able to have a quarterback that can be on the field for 10, 12 games this year.
I will say one thing personally, though, that, I agree that I don't think Carson Wentz can stay on the field, but I actually kind of am a fan of Sam Ehlinger, who's their backup quarterback.
Jacob Eason?
Jacob Eason? What happened to Sam Ehlinger? I thought he was the backup quarterback.
I don't know. Jacob Eason was he was getting first team looks when Carson was out. I
Well,
mean,
I
I
think
don't think he's good either. He was like a 5th round pick.
I think that's because Sam Ehlinger got hurt in preseason. I think Sam Ehlinger is actually the backup. Either way, if they do play Sam Ehlinger, I thought he was fun to watch in Texas, and he could give that offensive spark. But that's just my opinion. Either way, I don't think they get to the 9-win total.
So one more quick thing on this. I was almost hoping that Wentz wasn't going to come back, because I'm pretty sure this total wouldn't be 9. It'd be like 7 or 7.5. And I would just absolutely smash the over on that. This team, I mean, number 1 offensive line and a really good defense and great running back rotation, solid young receivers. I almost hope the news comes out where he's going to miss time and it goes down, because I'm even harder on the over. It's not about the quarterback play. It's about this, like, how solid the team is.
Yeah, I will say one thing is that when Carson Wentz first got that injury, the total actually went down to 8, not knowing if Carson Wentz was going to be back for like the first 7-8 weeks of the season. But then once we got news that he will be ready for week 1 and be back in practice, the total went back up to 9. So if you got it at 8, that's great. That seems like a pretty good bet if you could get that good of a value on that team. But at 9, I'm not really feeling it. If anything, it might be like a push for me. But all right, so we got some differing opinions about the Colts. We're going to have some differing opinions about the next team too. We're going to talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars. Chris, I'm going to let you go first on the Jags.
Okay, man. I'm going under. They had 1 win last year. They're over under 6.5. I'm sorry, but
it's 7.5 actually. Oh no, 6.5. You're right. Sorry,
6.5. Yeah. So they have to gain 5.5 wins from their production last year. I understand they were more competitive than the 1 win total that they got, but that's all they won. And Trevor Lawrence in his first year and Urban Meyer, who kind of looks like a dumpster fire so far, is not getting them that extra 5 wins. So especially with Travis Etienne out for the year, Trevor looking kind of shaky to start the year. I just don't think this team has enough talent to compete in 2021. Maybe that's a fine win total in 2022, but I'm going under and by at least 2 games.
All right. Tony, what do you think about Jacksonville this year?
Yeah, I'm in full agreement with Chris. I think continuity and experience are the 2 biggest things that the team lacks. New coach, new system, new players, guys adjusting to the NFL, a lot of rookies dependent upon a kid who's never taken a snap in an NFL game to lead your team. I just don't like it. And looking through their schedule, yes, it is soft, but some of those soft games are against teams like Denver and Cincinnati, who play in very tough divisions. And to me, there's nothing that they have done in the offseason to shore up and get the veterans they need to be able to compete week in and week out. I agree with Chris. I think they could be a good team down the road 2 or 3 years from now, but I just don't see it happening in 2021. And I'm going to take the under as well.
All right, so we got 2 unders. I'm going to be a little different here. I'm going to take a stab in the dark, and I'm going to take the over on the Jags this year. I believe in Trevor Lawrence. I think he is one of the best prospects to ever come out of the NFL draft. And even though he hasn't looked the greatest in the preseason, I think by week 2, week 3, week 4, where he has a couple games under his belt, I think we're going to see how good he actually is. And I think I think they can ride his arm to, like Chris said, 5 extra wins this year, where they can hit their over of 6.5 wins, or 6 extra wins. Sorry. I think I believe in Trevor Lawrence. I'm not too confident about the over. Obviously, we know who the Jags are. They haven't been the greatest franchise in their history. But yeah, I believe in Trevor Lawrence. I believe in James Robinson. I think he's a very good running back. The loss of Etienne is a little scary, but I think Urban Meyer is going to step in and do something with this team. Do I have the most confidence in it? No, I don't. But I do like the Jags to hit the over this year. I think they're going to be competitive, and I think they're going to hit 7 wins. And that's the best argument I could really give about that. I have faith in Trevor Lawrence more than I do Carson Wentz. That's it. All right. So last team, we're going to call this the dumpster fire of the division, Houston Texans. Their over-under projected total is 4 wins. I'll start off.
You want to see how quick we can make it? One sentence from each person.
let's just one sentence from each person. I think the Houston Texans are the worst team in football, and I think they're going to be very competitive for the number one pick in the draft this year. They have no one, and I think way under the total for me. Maybe one, maybe two wins this year. Tony?
I would love to see them get one win this year. I think they will have the first pick in the draft. And short of them announcing that the entire team has caught COVID, I don't think there could be more worse news coming out of that camp than what's been coming out of there. I think they're a terrible team. I think they'll be lucky to win one game. I will take the under.
Chris?
Under. I don't even know how the line is for. It should be like 2.5. Tyrod Taylor's their quarterback, and they don't have a young backup to even really look forward to. Davis Mills was a third-round pick, and that was kind of a stretch. It's just unreal how bad of contracts they gave out this offseason. A whole bunch of one-year contracts to veterans. I don't think they're going to win a game.
What if Deshaun Watson comes back and plays for them this season?
They had 4 wins when he played last year, and their roster is worse, from top to bottom.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I guess Deshaun Watson alone cannot take him to over that 4-win total. So, that's a pretty quick round of unders for us. I think we're all pretty much in agreement that they're going to be the bottom of the barrel for this division. I'm picking the Titans to win the division. Chris, who you got to win the division?
I'm going Indy. I think Titans defense is not going to let them play ball control with Henry, and the loss of Arthur Smith is going to be too much to overcome.
All right, Tony?
I am going Titans as well. Their new OC was promoted within. It's a thing that I've mentioned multiple times, continuity and systems. You're going to have very similar play calling, very similar, sets and the way things are designed. So I like everything coming out of Tennessee, especially the fact that they play in a terrible division and they get to play both the Texans and the Jaguars twice. I will take them to win the division.
Yeah, I'm also a big Mike Vrabel fan. I think he's a good head coach, so I think he can lead them to another division win. All right, so we've gone through the AFC North, we've gone through the AFC South. We're going to kick it over to you, for you Bills fans, now to the AFC East, and very interesting division we have here. The Bills obviously won last year with 13 wins, and they're projected to be the highest win total again this year. So we're going to start off with the Bills in this division. They have an over-under projection of 11 wins. Tony, I'm going to kick it off to you first. What do you think about the Bills this year for those Bills Mafia fans out there?
Yeah, for me, it's short and simple. They return everybody. They're a team that won 13 games. They're getting an extra game. They're in, other than maybe the division we just covered, the worst division in football. Outside of the Kansas City Chiefs, who we'll get to here in a little bit, to me, they're the best team in the AFC. And so I just think all of the metrics and things are pointing up for them. You give their quarterback another year of experience, another year taking snaps and diagnosing defenses. And I think they will be very, very good this year. I think they easily cruise to the over. They're a 13, 14 win team to me this year in 2021.
Yeah. Okay. So Tony's loving the Bills this year. Chris, what are your feelings on the Bills this year?
I'm with Tony. Pretty easy bet on the over here. 13 wins last year, line's 11. Something's wrong here. Josh Allen's going to take another step forward. He's got to be top 5 MVP candidate. They brought back their whole team. There's no way they could run the ball worse than they did last year. It's literally impossible. So I got to go over. They added Emmanuel Sanders, and this team's just ready to rock and roll. So over on 11 is a pretty easy press for me.
Yeah, me too. I'm going over the total for them. They're going to be competing with the Chiefs, I believe, for the number 1 seed in the conference this year. They're spectacular. Josh Allen is amazing, and yes, they can't run the ball worth shit, but I think that he takes over games with his arm. Adding Emmanuel Sanders, Stephon Diggs is a stud. Their defense is great. Jerry Hughes at linebacker, Tre'Davious White at cornerback, one of the best cornerbacks in the division. I think over 11 is a pretty easy bet for me. They do get to beat up on a pretty weak division, at least 2 wins against the Jets for sure. But I think the Patriots are going to be a little bit more competitive this year. We'll get to that in a minute. But I think the Bills are poised for a Super Bowl run this year. I would not be surprised if they're hoisting the Lombardi Trophy at the end of the year. I think Sean McDermott is an absolutely wonderful coach. He could be coach of the year this year. So yeah, I definitely agree. I think they're one of the best teams in the NFL, and they're going to soar over that 11 win total this year for sure. So we're all in agreement there on the Bills hitting their over of 11 wins. We're going to go to the next team where we're a little bit different on here, the Miami Dolphins. I'll kick it off with the Dolphins. They were actually, so me personally, I don't really like betting these kind of bets where you have to wait 16 games to get paid off and stuff like that, just because I like gambling and I like to bet a game and win the money the same night or 4 days later in a golf tournament or something. But last year, when I saw 3.5 win total on the Dolphins last year, I pounded the over. I thought they were really poised for a good season last year. I thought Brian Flores was a good head coach, and I thought it was an easy bet. I made multiple bets with multiple people head to head, like a lot of my friends of hitting the over last year for the Dolphins. They hit 10 wins last year, and they were solid. And I think that last year was an easy bet. This year, I think they're going to take a little bit of a step back. I don't believe in Tua that much as we're going to get to in a minute with Chris. But I just think that even though they added some pieces like Will Fuller, and they have a weird backfield with Myles Gaskin and stuff like that, for some reason, I just think they're going to take a little bit of a step back this year. I don't think they're going to be able to beat the Bills this year in either of their games. And I think they're going to, be competitive with like the Patriots. And I don't think they're going to be able to sweep the Patriots, which is what they would probably need to do to get to their over of 9.5 wins this year. So I'm not a huge fan of the Dolphins this year. I think it's going to, if anyone's going to compete with the Bills in this division, it's going to be the Patriots, who we'll get to in a minute. But I think they're going to take a little bit of regression this year and go under of 9.5 wins. Chris, tell us about Miami.
Yeah, man. I'm taking the over. They had 10 wins last year, like you said. I had no idea their over-under was 3.5. That's like,
yeah, it was ridiculous.
Yeah, I would have smashed that if I'd known about it. But
well, they were coming off I think they were 0-16 or 1-15 the year before, so they just bumped it up a couple wins. But
yeah, so I'm taking the over on 9.5. They had the number 4 ranked defense in the NFL last year. It was easily the most fun defense to watch. I mean, these guys are just turnover machines, scoring touchdowns. They have a great head coach, Brian Flores, and they added tons of offensive weapons to help out Tua. So, I mean, Tua was basically on one leg last year, coming off a possible career-ending injury, and still in the line of fire. So, one more year removed from that injury, I think Tua is going to be one of the surprise players in the NFL this year. Give him Jalen Waddle, his college teammate, and give him you already said it, I can't think, the Texans. Will Fuller. Yeah. Give him 2 speedsters like that, and Devontae Parker coming back. They have an underrated group of offensive weapons. Pair it with that defense, that's unreal. And I just don't I want to hear your argument on the Patriots, but I think the Dolphins have a better defense and a better offense than the Patriots. So I'm going Dolphins pretty comfortably over the 9.5 win total.
All right, so we got 1 over, 1 under for the Dolphins. Tony, break the tie.
So this was probably, of all of the over-unders in the AFC, one of the more difficult ones for me to pick. I waffled back and forth. If it was up to me, I would not bet this, but for the purposes of the show, we were forced to make a pick, but I would not put money on it. I took the under, and it's simply because of Tua. In a league where quarterback play is so important, we talked about the ills of Carson Wentz and how his career has transitioned, the trajectory of it and where they are, and why we felt the way we did, you and I, Rick, both about the Colts. I feel similarly about Tua and the Dolphins. And I'm not there with him. There was nothing that I saw from him last year. Yes, he was coming off of an injury that made me feel super confident about him. They have a good core around him. And looking through their schedule, I could see how they could easily get to 10 wins. But with the biggest question mark at the most important position on the field, I'm going to have to choose the under, and it's only because I'm forced to do so.
All right. So we got 2 unders and an over for the Dolphins. So choose wisely. I think we're all a little bit, on the fence on that one. But we'll see how that division plays out. The next team we got are the Fighting Bill Belichick's New England Patriots, who are returning a bunch of people on defense this year that they didn't have last year because of COVID. And they have a brand new quarterback in Mac Jones. They kicked Cam Newton to the curb. So I'll let you go first, Tony. What are your thoughts on the Patriots this year?
Yeah, the Patriots, to me, much like we talked about with the Jaguars, I think they're just a couple years away. They're in full rebuild mode. It's the first year with Mac Jones as their quarterback, so it's going to take some time for them to get comfortable and figure out if he's a system guy. Outside of Tom Brady, look at the guys that they've drafted and brought in to be quarterback. None of those guys have had any success there. If you look at those guys that they transitioned to other teams, they've not been good quarterbacks. So their personnel selections at the QB position outside of Tom Brady have not been very sound. So I'm not a believer in Mac Jones. I just think they're not quite there yet. If this was 2023 or 2024, I could see the argument, but I think it's a huge ask for them to get to basically 10 wins. So I am going to take the under on the Patriots this year.
All right. Got an argument for the under on the Patriots. Chris, what do you like about the Patriots this year?
Much like Tony was on the Dolphins, if I had to choose, I wouldn't bet this one. I think this line is super tight. They had 7 wins last year. The line's 9.5. They're returning defensive players that opted out for COVID, so that gives them a bump there. Mac Jones is undoubtedly going to give them a better chance of win this year than Cam Newton. Even as an unproven rookie, I got to give him the edge because Cam couldn't get the ball more than 15 yards down the field. His only attribute is, running the option inside the 10-yard line. But this one's so tough for me. I think they're going to finish right at 9 or 10 wins this year on the back of that defense. And this would be a no bet for me, but I'm going to have to go on the under just because I don't think they'll improve that full 3 games from their last year's win total.
All right. So 2 unders on the Patriots. I'm going over on the Patriots this year. I'm a big believer in them this year. I think them getting a lot of their pieces on defense back this year with the brilliance of Bill Belichick running that defense is going to help them tremendously. And then I think the biggest thing for them is the best thing that they did was cut Cam Newton. I think he did not fit well on that team at all. I think Josh McDaniels has been so used to knowing how to run an offense with Tom Brady at quarterback that he was just confused last year on how to run an offense with Cam Newton at quarterback. And I think getting rid of Cam Newton and going to Mac Jones, who I think is more of a system-like quarterback, more of a pocket passer like Tom Brady, I think he's going to flourish under Josh McDaniels. And I think combination of McDaniels and Belichick are going to definitely get Mac Jones ready to win games this year. I think he is a frontline candidate for Rookie of the Year this year. He has looked wonderful in the preseason, and I think with the tremendous coaching that they have, with the tremendous defense that they have, yes, they lost Stephon Gilmore for the first 6 weeks of the season, but he'll come back strong. When he does, they'll be good, even better on defense. But I think the addition of Matt Judon, all these pieces that they added back on defense are going to be spectacular on defense. They're going to be suffocating on defense. So I don't think they're going to be able to compete with the Bills yet, but they definitely are going to finish second in the division and be fighting for a wild card spot, in my opinion. So I'm definitely high on the Bills this year. I mean, and on the Patriots this year. That's my argument for the Patriots. We got 2 unders and an over for that. Let's drop down to the dumpster fire that was the Jets last year. They have a projected win total of 6 this year. Brand new rookie quarterback, Zach Wilson, is going to be leading the helm for them this year. I'm going under on the Jets this year. I don't see it with them. They lost some very key pieces on defense already to injury this year. I think they're going to be a complete dumpster fire on defense. I think they're not going to be able to stop anyone. Zach Wilson has looked nice in the season. They do have some nice pieces on offense. I'm a fan of Michael Carter. I'm a fan of their head coach, Robert Salah. but I just don't think they can compete with the likes of the Dolphins or the Bills or the Patriots in this division. And much like the Bengals, like I said, in the AFC North, I think they're going to get swept by the AFC East this year. I can't see them getting 5 wins outside the division this year. So I'm going under on the Jets this year. Tony, tell me about the Jets.
Yeah, I think you hit most of the high points. Rookie quarterback, not a very good team last year. They struggled to win 2 games. And looking through their schedule, trying to find 6 games that they can actually win. They've got Carolina, Denver, Atlanta, Houston, Jacksonville. There's 5. So they've got to beat some pretty good teams in those other matchups to get to 6 or 7 wins. And I just don't see it happening. They might be the worst team in football outside of the Texans. I think they're going to struggle to win 4 games this year. So I'm with you. I'm also taking the under on the Jets.
Yeah, I completely agree there. They could be competing for a number 1 pick again with the Texans next year. But Chris, tell me about the Jets.
I think the Jets are in a class of their own, just 1 tier above the Lions and the Texans. So, Zach Wilson has looked friggin' awesome in the preseason, but they're coming off 2 wins. They have a new head coach, a new system. It's too much to ask to gain 4 wins from last year when, they're already banged up a little bit this year. And you have a rookie quarterback, coming from smaller-ish school in the bright lights of New York. I think the Jets will win 3 or 4 games this year. So under pretty comfortably.
Yeah. Are you guys a fan of Chris? I'll throw it to you first. Are you a fan of Robert Saleh as a head coach?
Don't really know a whole lot about him, but he's coming from Shanahan regime. So that defense was pretty dominant for a couple of years. So hard not to like him.
He's super fun to watch on the sidelines. He's one of the most animated coaches in the NFL. And I think he's going to be fun to watch, but he might be in for a lot of disappointment this year. Tony, do you like Robert Saleh at all?
It's not that I don't like him. I just tend to be not a big fan of defensive coaches being head coaches. Yeah. And where you see them have success, like Belichick, it's a complete cultural change in the team, and that takes time to do. So Slaw could have success over a period of time, but I just don't see him transitioning the culture of that franchise overnight. And I think it's going to take a lot of time for him to be able to put his fingerprint on that franchise. I like Wilson a lot. I just think he's going to take his lumps in his first year. And if they can keep him healthy and put some pieces in place, it could be a much different conversation in 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Jets 2024.
Yeah, Jets 2024. He's a big improvement over Adam Gase, who might be the worst football coach in NFL history. So.
I don't know how Adam Gase continues to get jobs. Like does he
have a job this year? I don't even know.
Yeah, but he's been in the NFL for a long time. He's had 2 head coaching jobs. He's just one of those guys that it's like when there's an opening, people are like, "What about Gase?" And I'm like, "That guy's insane. He's a total clown." He has no track record.
Yeah, he had that one amazing season with Peyton Manning in Denver that all of a sudden he's amazing with that Hall of Fame quarterback. So I don't know what it is, but yeah, you're right. All right, so we wrapped up the AFC East there.
Not yet. I think division winners.
Yeah. I think we're all in agreement here that the Bills are going to be winning the division. Definitely for me, Tony, Chris, agreement.
Yep.
Agreed. Just like to say that I think this division's a little bit better than the on paper gives them credit for. I think the Dolphins will put a little scare into the Bills this year, and that Patriots defense is something to be reckoned with.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we're going to move on to the last division here, the AFC West, the defending AFC champions, Kansas City Chiefs, who ran train on the AFC last year, and then they got stomped in the Super Bowl. They lead off our AFC West discussion. They have a staggering 12.5 win Vegas win total. Seems pretty high. It is the Chiefs. Chris, talk to me about the Chiefs.
Yeah, man, I'm going over. They can go 13-4. I can see that pretty easily, even 14-3. So, they're coming off how many wins last year? 14 wins last year.
14 wins.
14 wins last year, and they're getting an extra game. I can see it. The thing most people don't realize about the Chiefs is they actually have a pretty good defense. So they had the number 10 ranked defense in the NFL last year. So if you have a defense that can stop people in crunch time, and Patrick Mahomes on the other side, and you have Clyde Edwards-Helaire coming back healthy this year at running back. I see no reason they're not getting to a record of 13-4 and winning that division pretty easily.
All right. Yeah. Tony, Chiefs, talk to me.
Yeah, for me, it's rinse and repeat. Best team in football, arguably. Everyone comes back. Outside of the first 5 games, which are Cleveland, Baltimore, Los Angeles, Philly, and Buffalo, they have 4 competitive games of those 5 up front. After that, the schedule is like they should win every game by at least 12 points. So I think much like Chris, they should easily go 13-4. If they end up splitting with some of those better teams up front, they could be a 15-win team. I have a lot of faith in what they've built there. They have the best quarterback in football. And, short of a black swan event like him getting hurt or the team getting COVID, I don't see much changing. I'm with Chris on the over.
Yeah, I'm in full agreement too. They're the best team in the AFC, I believe. I think them and the Bills are in their own tier, in my opinion. But I think the Chiefs are probably a step or two above the Bills, and Patrick Mahomes is so effing good. Like, he is so unbelievable to watch. They did exploit some weaknesses on them last year in the Super Bowl. The Bucs did, but I think that they made some good additions to the offensive line this year. I think they're going to be able to protect him better. They added Orlando Brown Jr. from the Ravens, and I think that's going to be enough protection for Mahomes. He doesn't need that much time to find an open Tyreek or an open Kelsey. So I think that just that extra half second or second that the improved offensive line is going to give him this year is going to be a world of difference for Patrick Mahomes. And he's pretty nimble too, to be completely honest with you. He can get outside the pocket and run for a first down.
Yeah. Good call, Rick, because that was the difference in the Super Bowl. Not that it was a close game, but Tampa Bay's pass rush just bowled over their O-line, and they completely tore apart and rebuilt their O-line. So they fixed their biggest weakness.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I don't like the depth on this team. I think if anyone suffers an injury, they're kind of screwed. They don't have any good running wide receivers behind Tyreek. They don't have a quarterback or tight end to replace Kelsey or Mahomes. But that's kind of how it is for a lot of teams out there. So I have faith in Andy Reid. I think he's a great head coach. And like Chris said, they're very underrated on defense with Tyrann Mathieu, Chris Jones, and Frank Clark on defense. Like they know how to get to the pass, get to the quarterback, and they know how to defend on the back end of that defense. So I'm going to say over the total, I think they could get to 14, 15 wins easily. Like Tony said, they should be favored in almost every game they play this year. So yeah, I definitely I'm going to take the over also. So we're all unanimous on the over on the Chiefs there. I think we're all going to predict them to win the division. The next one we're going to talk about is the Los Angeles Chargers with a brand new head coach this year. Rookie of the year from last year, Justin Herbert at quarterback. Their projected win total this year is 9.5. So talk to me about the Chargers, Tony. What do you like?
Yeah, I mean, I think you start with the quarterback position. I think Herbert's coming in much like Jordan Allen did with the Bills, with a ton of hype, a ton of expectation. I think making the change at head coach, that was the biggest detraction for that team last year. Is there was a culture that was just built there to lose, and making that change I put a lot of wind in the team's sails. I think they are built to do some pretty special things. They do play in a very difficult division, maybe not the toughest in the AFC, but they do have the best team in football in their division. So I think it's going to be a struggle for them to get to that 10-win mark. But I do think that with Herbert a year in this system, getting the ability to do some different things, I think it's a program and an offense that is going to be designed to exploit what he does well. They've got a number of guys coming back. Eckler's healthy. So I think all of those things mean that the Chargers could be well positioned. And then their strength of schedule. I mean, they're one of the softer teams in the NFL in terms of their schedule. And I think they've got a great opportunity to get to 10 wins. This was another one of those lines where 9.5, right, where 10 wins just feels like the right number of wins for the Chargers this year. They won 7 last year. They're getting an extra game. They're in a brand new stadium. I just think a lot of the narratives and intangibles are in their favor. So I'm going to take the over this year.
All right. Yeah, I'm going to agree on that. I really like the Chargers this year. Two things we didn't mention on this show is that we don't like defensive coordinators as head coaches, and we don't like Sean McVay disciples. So we got two of those here. With defensive coordinator for the Rams last year coming and becoming a head coach. But we'll see. Brandon Staley seems like he was a good fit for the job. He's definitely an improvement over Anthony Lynn, who was an absolute garbage head coach, I believe. Running the ball, on first and second down every single drive last year is just scary. It's just a bad formula to score points until they finally realize that they have a good quarterback in Justin Herbert. So I think they're gonna make some changes to there. I think the big thing for them is how good their defense is, and I think if Derwin James can come back and be healthy for an actual full season, he is potentially one of the best safeties in the NFL. They have Joey Bosa up front. I think their defense is pretty scary. So I definitely like the Chargers this year. I don't think they can compete with the Chiefs for the division. I think they will be in a full throttle race for the wild card spot. But yeah, they even though we say they're playing in a new stadium with new fans, I don't know how many Chargers fans are actually going to travel to their games. I think there'll be more of the opposing team fans than Chargers fans in the stadium. But yeah, I do like the Chargers this year. I'm going to take the over on their win total this year. Chris, talk to me about the Chargers.
Yeah, man. I wouldn't bet this one if I didn't have to. I went back and forth and finally landed on the under. I just think their division is pretty tough. You have the Chiefs. I think the Broncos are pretty underrated, and the Raiders are, about a 500 team as well. So they had 7 wins last year. They're going to need to get 10 to pay you out on the over this year. Herbert was already the rookie of the year last year, so it's not like we're hoping for a big leap out of him in order to hit. He's already there. He's already hit. They did fix their offensive line a little bit this year, and they should have Derwin James back. I do think they're going to eclipse the 7-win total, but I think they're right at that 9-10 border, and I'm just not confident enough that they're going to hit the 10 this year.
Yeah. All right, so we got 2 overs and an under for the Chargers there. So obviously we're going to have to be different some on one of the next 2 teams to even it out. So we're going to talk about the Denver Broncos next. They have a projected win total of 8.5 this season. They have decided that they're going to roll with Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback. Chris, talk to me about the Broncos.
Yeah, man, this is the one I finally decided when I went under on the Chargers because I fell in love with the Broncos today. I hate to say it. So I think they're going to go from 5 wins to the over on 8.5. Believe it or not, they have a quite significant QB upgrade in my mind over what they had last year. They had Drew Lock, and then they had a wide receiver play QB one game. It was just, and then, they had 3 other QBs besides Drew Lock play last year. Yeah. It was just it was pitiful. You almost felt bad for them. But I think their defense is in the running to be the top defense in the NFL this year. It's a slam dunk top 5 defense. Von Miller, Chubb, Kyler Fuller, they drafted Patrick Surtain, and they have the best safety combo in the league with Simmons and Kareem Jackson. So Cortland Sutton's back off the ACL injury, and they added Javonte Williams in the draft. I understand they need to gain 4 wins from last year. I think they've done enough with the security of Bridgewater and that nasty defense in Mile High. I think they're going to get there. I'm picking the Broncos as one of my surprise teams in the NFL this year. Not to mention they have a cakewalk of a schedule.
All right. Yeah. They have a pretty good home field advantage. I'm going to take the under on the Broncos. I'm not a fan of them. I can't get there with them for some reason. Just the team looks pretty decent on paper. I do agree that Teddy Bridgewater is an upgrade to Drew Lock. I just can't see that with the Broncos for some reason. I just can't get there. I just think they play in a really tough division. I think the Chargers are a lot better than them. And I think they're going to have a tough time winning games in that division for sure. Outside the division, we'll see. Like you said, they do have a pretty easy schedule. This is probably definitely a no bet for me. I think they're going to land right around 7-8 win mark total. I just don't think they can get over the hump of 8.5. And I think Melvin Gordon is washed up. I think Javonte Williams is a good draft pick, but yeah, they do have a pretty scary defense with getting Von Miller back and all the other pieces that they added. But yeah, their defense could be good, but I just don't think they have enough firepower and offense to get them over the win total for them. So I'm going to take the under on them. Tony, who do you like? What do you like here?
Yeah, I'm also going to take the under. This was one of those, you hit it on the head. I think both of you guys mentioned it, where this was one of those tough ones. I think they're an 8 or a 9 win season. I think Vegas hit it on the head with where the win total needs to be. And the only reason that I'm choosing the under, well, 2 reasons why. One is I'm forced to pick one way or another. They've got a brand new quarterback. I'm not a Teddy Bridgewater fan. Yes, he is better than what was there last year, but not by a lot. And then secondarily, the other thing for me has to do with the team that we're going to talk about next. Is I think the Raiders are going to be improved. So if I'm picking the Chiefs to win 14 games, the Chargers to win 11, 12 games, and the Raiders to be better, something has to give. That's the Denver Broncos for me in this division. So I am taking the under for those reasons.
I have a question for you guys. If Aaron Rodgers leaves and goes to Denver, are they Super Bowl favorites?
I don't know if they're Super Bowl favorites, but I think they're definitely in contention to be their odds dramatically improved to
they're top 5 no matter what, right?
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree.
I think they instantly in the division go from being 3rd, 4th to competing with the Chiefs. Mm-hmm. But I would still have them behind both the Chiefs and the Bills in the AFC.
I don't think that's happening. I don't think that's happening this year, though. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to play out his year with the Packers this year, and then maybe go somewhere else in the next offseason.
Oh yeah, he's definitely staying put. I was trying to a little bit get my point across that the rest of the team's pretty good. They have pretty sick offensive weapons and a good defense, but Bridgewater's not going to win a game for you.
What about this question? Instead of Aaron Rodgers, what if they traded for Deshaun Watson and he actually played for them this season? How good are they then?
Same outcome. I think they're pretty similar assets at quarterback at this stage of their careers.
Yeah, I'd say I still have the Chiefs and Bills rated above them. And I think Aaron Rodgers gives them a better chance, but Deshaun Watson would be a huge upgrade. And to Chris's point, they have a lot of pieces in place. They need a quarterback that can move the ball. I think if Deshaun Watson was to go in division to Indianapolis, there's a Super Bowl contending team, but I don't see that happen. Obviously they put their chips in the Carson Wentz basket, and we see how that's unfolding.
Yeah. I think we all agree that they're a quarterback. I think the Broncos are a quarterback away from being a top elite team. And they could have done that if they drafted Justin Fields in the draft instead of Patrick Surtain, but I don't know. Maybe not. Who knows how good Justin Fields is going to be? But we'll talk about that next week on our NFC Total Win show with the Bears. But all right, the last team in this division, the Las Vegas Raiders, the Fighting Raiders, who we're going to be in Las Vegas next week to see them opening Monday Night Football against the Ravens. Should be a fun time. I'm going to kick it to Tony first for the Raiders. He seems to like them this year. So tell me what you like about the Raiders.
Yeah, I think the big thing for me is I've always been a big Gruden fan. Yes, he's been away from the game for a long time, but he's a student of the game. He's a proven winner. He's won Super Bowls at different places. He is back again. The Raiders have a lot of the narrative around being in Vegas and all of the hype that is that. I think Derek Carr, for whatever people want to say about him, I think he is in the top half of the quarterbacks in the NFL. I would rate him above guys like Jared Goff and Matthew Stafford. And he just hasn't been able to put all the pieces together. I think the Raiders are going to be improved over where they were last year. And they were a team that won 8 games last year. So with an added game and the fact that I have the Denver Broncos still not quite there yet, I am going to take the over with the Raiders. It's just win, baby. It's Las Vegas. I love the mojo, so I am taking the over.
All right. We got a pick for the over for the Raiders. Chris, what do you like about the Raiders this year?
Yeah, this would probably be a no bet for me, but after looking into it, I went under. Yeah, they won 8 games last year, and they only have to hit the 7 number this year to push. But they lost their 3 best offensive linemen, and their defense was already, I think it was bottom 3 in the NFL last year. So I just don't think they're trending in the right direction, man. It's just I'm a Derek Carr guy. They didn't really add any pieces on offense, and they lost offensive line. And unless I'm missing something, they didn't really make a splash on defense either. So I just think they're going to be a ho hum, 6 or 7 win team this year. Just super unexciting. So if I have to pick one, I'm going under.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to take the under 2 on the Raiders. I just kind of have to force my hand to pick one here. I don't think they've improved much in the offseason. They spent a first-round draft pick on a offensive lineman that was projected to be a 3rd or 4th round pick in the NFL draft, which was a really strange pick. I didn't really understand that pick.
Alex
but,
Leatherwood?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. He was projected to be in like a mid-round pick, right?
He was projected as like a 2. Like the Ravens were looking at him apparently in the back of the second. So
yeah, but they took him in the first round, which is a weird pick. But
mm-hmm.
I like John Gruden as a head coach. I think Derek Carr is okay, but like Chris said, they're just kind of ho-hum for me. I think they're a very average team with a very average win total of 7. So I think I'm just going to take the under there. I'm not a huge fan of them this year. So they did lose their best receiver, Nelson Aguilar, last year. But they did get when did they draft Brian Edwards, Chris? Last year?
He was a 3rd round pick last year.
Okay. So yeah, if he takes a step up, maybe they'll have a good passing attack. But I am a huge Darren Waller fan. I think he's a great fantasy tight end. But I don't think he can single-handedly win games for them. So I'm going to go under on the Raiders this year. I think we're all in agreement that the Chiefs are going to win the division this year.
Yep.
All right. So Chiefs are going to win the division for the AFC West. Tony, why don't you give me a AFC championship prediction?
Yeah, I mean, I would hate to repeat what happened last year. It'd be so easy to just say the Bills and Chiefs and just go that route. I think that sneakily the Tennessee Titans could be that team, much like they were last year, that ends up competing to play in the Super Bowl. It's really going to come down to the seedings and where things kind of shake out. If we end up with the Bills and the Chiefs 1-2, I think they're easily in the championship game against each other. If something's to go awry and we end up where we get a 1-2 seed where Tennessee ends up not having to play the Chiefs until the AFC Championship, I think they're built for the playoffs. They're an old school team. They remind me a lot of those teams from the 90s and 2000s in the AFC North, where it's like beat them up, play defense, hand the ball off, 3 yards in a cloud of dust. So I still think, the Chiefs are the team to beat. The Bills would be the next team there, but I'm just going to be a little bit different, and I'm going to say it's going to be the Chiefs and the Titans this year in the AFC Championship.
All right, Chris, who you got in the AFC Championship?
Yeah, so when we went over this about a month ago, I was feeling the Ravens this year. It's their last year before we have to pay Lamar Jackson $45 million. So I think the team kind of knows it's kind of the end of their window while they're at a, decent cap situation, but they've just had too many injuries this year, and their division is just more and more, I see it playing out. Their division is just too solid. So I'm going to be super boring, but super right, and pick the Bills and the Chiefs in the AFC Championship.
Yeah, I would love to bet with my heart there and say the Ravens are going to beat the Chiefs in the AFC Championship, but I do not think that is going to be the case. I think it is going to be a Bills-Chiefs AFC Championship game again, and I think that the Bills could clip them this year. So we'll see. I do think that the Bills have a good chance of making the Super Bowl this year. I know that'll make Bills Mafia pretty happy out there to hear that. But yeah, I'm going to pick the Bills to beat the Chiefs in the AFC Championship this year. I think they have all the pieces to get there. So that's my pick. Any closing thoughts, guys? Chris, do you have any thoughts about the AFC this year or anything in general?
Well, I was just looking at I added up all the win totals from the AFC and the NFC to see just what Vegas thought the better conference was, and they were almost exactly the same. The win total for the AFC was 138.5, and NFC was 137.5. So at least we know going in, from top to bottom, both conferences are pretty even. So I think we're going to have a lot of parity this year and just a lot of good football games. Excited to get kicked off.
Yeah, 17-game season this year. You're going to definitely see a lot more parity than normal. What do you think that the AFC or NFC is a better conference as a whole? I personally think the AFC is a better conference as a whole. What do you think, Tony?
Yeah, I tend to agree. Obviously, the Buccaneers won the Super Bowl last year. They're the favorites in the NFC, but I think top to bottom, the AFC is a much better division. I will say this, because of COVID and everything that's happened over the last 2 years, I do think that there's going to be a lot of variance, at least early in the season. Coaches, players just have not had the same level of preparation that they would for a normal NFL season. And now you've got another game thrown into the mix. So I think at least early on, you're going to see a lot of teams get upset. And I think if anybody's looking for an advantage or some place to be able to make up some ground in the betting markets, I think it's going to be in the first 4 or 5 games of the year. Teams are going to be learning what their player personnel looks like, how coaching staffs are going to adjust, and how everything shakes out with COVID. So, I think that is the big outlier. And for me, I think that's going to be the story early on in the year is you're going to have a lot of drastically underdog teams that end up rising up and beating teams that they shouldn't. And as we get in later in the year, they won't. But that first 4 or 5 weeks of the season could be really, really interesting.
Yeah, I agree. COVID's going to play a big part this year, and it's already started with some teams saying that they've cut players because they're unvaccinated. So we're not going to get into the whole political thing about that, but yeah, I mean, sounds like if you want to play in the NFL, you got to be vaccinated, or else you're going to get cut. But yeah, I don't really have any other thoughts about the AFC. It should be a pretty exciting year. Chris, any closing thoughts about anything else?
No, just that I think top to bottom AFC is a better conference, but NFC is a little more top heavy. NFC West, I think, is easily the best division in football. And then you also have the Packers and the Bucks. So NFC, I think, just spitballing here, probably 5 of the top 7 teams in the NFL, but AFC, tons of really solid teams in the middle there.
All right. So that's a good segue to let you guys know that we will be doing an NFC win total show sometime in the near future. I believe next week. We will tweet it out. We will let you know when we're going to do that show. Also, we'd like to do a week 1 spread pick show if possible, or just an overall pick show, just to let you know who we're going to think is going to win the first week of the season. We'll let you know when we're going to do that show as well. Please like and comment and subscribe to the Nickel City Mafia page. Like we said, if you subscribe, you will be entered in a draw for a giveaway, which we will let you know what the prize is going to be. It's going to be something juicy and nice. So subscribe to our channel, listen to our podcast, let us know what you think. Tony, Chris, thanks for joining me today. The first time we did it 3 wide, it was very, very fun. And we will see you guys next time for the NFC Win Total Show.